Shalom. We'll be in the fourth chapter of the book of Ruth, or Ruth, um, starting with picking up where we left off last week. It says, "Meanwhile, Boaz had gone up to the gate and had sat down there. When the Redeemer of whom Boaz had spoken passed by, such and such, he said, 'Come over and sit down.' So he came over and sat down. He took 10 of the city's leaders and said, 'Sit down here.' And they sat down. Then he said to the redeeming kinsman, 'The parcel of land which used to belong to your relative Elimelech is being offered for sale by Naomi, who has returned from the plain of Moab. I thought I should tell you about it and say, buy it in the presence of the people sitting here and in the presence of the leaders of my people. If you want to redeem it, redeem it. But if it is not to be redeemed, then tell me, so that I can know, because there is no one else in line to redeem it, and I am after you.' He said, 'I want to redeem it.' Then Boaz said, 'The same day you buy the field from Naomi, you must also buy Ruth, the woman from Moab, the wife of the deceased son, in order to raise up in the name of the deceased an heir for his property.' The Redeemer said, 'Then I can't redeem it for myself because I might put my own inheritance at risk. You take my right of redemption on yourself because I can't redeem it.' In my mind, I can see this discussion happening between Yehovah, represented by Mashiach, and Hasatan. Every time someone comes to the covenant. And I can see Yeshua HaMashiach saying to Hasatan, you know, this person's up for grabs. Okay? They can, you can keep them out of the covenant. There's a price. And he sets that price so high that it is a constant reminder that no matter what he does, he can't take someone out from under the redemption blood. It just can't be done. And so he has this conversation with him. I believe that, I mean, this is not doctrinal. This is not me saying that, hey, this absolutely happens this way. I'm saying I picture it in my mind that there's an interaction between the two. And he says, you've got first rights to them. You've had this person their whole life. Oh, but guess what? I'm the redeeming kinsman. I'm the Word manifested in the flesh, and I've paid the price. Are you willing to pay the price? Because the price is going to be your blood. The price, and people say, well, he's a fallen angel. How can he have blood? Well, they can walk around like men. Why do they not have blood? But Hasatan, I think, is a coward. Again, this is just in my mind, how I'm looking at it, how I'm interpreting this. He's a coward, and he doesn't want that. He doesn't want that pain. He doesn't want that suffering. He wants to make other people have pain and suffering. And so he gives us up as we come into the covenant. It says, in the past, this is what was done in Israel to validate all transactions involving redemption and exchange. A man took off his shoe and gave it to the other party. This was the form of attestation in Yisrael. So the Redeemer said to Boaz, buy it for yourself, and took off his shoe. Boaz addressed the leaders and all the people. You are witnesses today that I am purchasing from Naomi all that belonged to Elimelech. and all that belonged to Kilion and Machlon. Also, I am acquiring as my wife Ruth, the woman from Moab, the wife of Machlon, in order to raise up in the name of the deceased an heir for his property, so that the name of the deceased will not be cut off from his kinsmen and from the gate of his place. You know, when we come to him, we are deceased. We are dead. Actually, we've never been alive. Our spirit has never been filled with his spirit, and so it is dead. It's like an empty sack. It's like an empty wineskin. And it says that he stands in front of witnesses here, and he tells them, "I'm purchasing this woman for my bride." And I believe that every time someone comes into covenant, the reason we're told that there's a celebration in the heavenlies is because Mashiach stands up and says, I'm purchasing that one. My blood's already been shed, price has already been paid, but that one is becoming my bride today. Amen. It's becoming part of that bridal party. It says, you are witnesses today. And I think he says something along those lines to the angels in the heavenlies, and that's why they celebrate. It says, all the people at the gate and the leaders said, we are witnesses. May Yehovah make the woman who has come into your house like Rachel and like Leah, who between them built up the house Beit Yisrael, do worthy deeds in Ephrat, become renowned in Bethlehem. May your house, because of the seed Yehovah will give you from this young woman, become like the house of Peretz, whom Tamar bore to Yehudah. In other words, may you have many, many, many children. So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. He had sexual relations with her. Yehovah enabled her to conceive, and she gave birth to a son. You catch that? Yehovah enabled her to conceive. She had been married before and had never conceived. And I think we lose track of that. We lose sight of that in this world. Okay, my wife's about to give birth to our sixth child. Okay, and sometimes I think we take that for granted, that we are able to have children. Not everyone can do that, and when we have children, Scripture says they're a blessing and they're a heritage and they're an inheritance, and blessed is the man who has them. And we forget that. We can't ever forget that. Then the women said to Naomi, "Blessed be Yehovah, who today has provided you a redeemer. May his name be renowned in Yisrael. Blessed be Yehovah, who has given us a redeemer. May his name be renowned in Yisrael." But most of the professing body of the Jewish people today of Israel fail to acknowledge the Redeemer that he gave us. What a travesty. And yet there are Gentiles out there who are trying to cling to the covenant through him, and they're inheriting lies from their forefathers, and they're not knowing the true covenant because we're not giving it to them. We're trying, but sometimes most of the time I think we're trying the wrong way. It's not about going out and beating them over the heads. They've had that from their mainline preachers. If we will live the way we are told to live, they will see a difference and they'll desire it. And I've seen it happen over and over and over again. May he restore your life and provide for your old age, for your daughter-in-law who loves you and is better to you than even 7 sons. She'd lost 2, but his daughter-in-law was better than 7 sons, has given birth to him. Naomi took the child, laid it on her breast, and became its nurse. Or on her breast and became its nurse. Okay, in other words, she became like a nanny. She was not the grandmother, but she behaved like the grandmother. We are not the parents of the Gentiles who are seeking truth, but we can be spiritual parents to those who are being grafted in. The women who were her neighbors gave it a name. They said, "A son has been born to Naomi," and called it Oved. He was the father of Yishai, the father of David. And if you're used to reading the English says that they called him Obed. He was the father of Jesse, and who was the father of David. This is David HaMelech. This is King David that we're talking about in this passage, which means that if Yishai was the father of David, and Oved was the father of Yishai, and Ruth and Boaz were the parents of um, of Oved. That means that Boaz and Naomi were the great grandparents. You follow that? The great grandparents of David, and probably knew him when he was a child, and probably influenced him. And is there any wonder? Is it any wonder that he grew up to be the king that he was? Here is the genealogy of Peretz. Peretz was the father of Hezron. Hezron was the father of Ram. Ram was the father of Aminadab. Aminadab was the father of Nahshon. Nahshon was the father of Salmon. Salmon was the father of Boaz. Boaz was the father of Oved. Oved was the father of Yishai. And Yishai was the father of David. You know, I think it's very easy to become too wrapped up in and too concerned about finding our heritage as far as our genetic links. Okay, and some people, once they find out, oh man, I'm in this house of this tribe, and they start looking down on other people who maybe are from a house in a tribe that doesn't have such high status in scripture, or looking down upon people who come from the outside and they say I want to be Jewish, and come to find out they're already ethnically Jewish and they just didn't know it, and then they think, well, that I'm better than the person who comes in who was just a Gentile. But at the same time that I think we have to be careful and not do that, I think for those of us who have that lineage, actually it gives us not a greater value, not a greater worth, but a greater responsibility to teach those who don't know, don't have that blessing, because the oracles came first to our people. And our calling to begin with was always supposed to be to be priests to the nations, just like the Levi, the Levites, so to speak, just like they were supposed to be priests to us and teach us his ways. We were supposed to be priests to the nations and teach them his ways, and we failed. And we have failed over and over again throughout history. And until we get it right, he's not going to be able to bless us the way that he wants to bless us. We're not going to be able to be utilized the way that he wants to utilize us. And we will be falling terribly, terribly short of what he has for us. And that brings us to the end of the teaching on Ruth. And we will continue next week in this series that we've been doing on leadership in ancient Israel, and how the Yisraelim learned from the habits and the behaviors of their leaders, and what that says to us today, as leaders, whether we're leaders in families, synagogues, business, whatever it is, and hopefully serving as a reminder to us of the importance that we get that right, that we teach the right behaviors by example, that we teach the right thinking by example, and that we utilize those positions, even the ones in business where I know we're told we're not supposed to be taking our faith there, but even simply by the way we conduct business, we can impart principles to others. And when they ask us, well, why do you do that and not do this? And then they've asked the question, and then we're allowed to say, because that's what my faith dictates. By the way, I'm Jewish, Messianic Jew. Synagogues at 2 o'clock on Shabbat. That would be Saturday in your language. Hope to see you there.